Ben's always having a fun.
I'd like to call this meeting of the Bedford County Board of Supervisors to order. Welcome everybody here this evening. If you have your cell phone, if you wouldn't mind putting that on vibrate or silence. Don't see any hats that need to be removed, so we appreciate that. But we'll begin the meeting tonight with a moment of silence. Thank you. If you join with me on the Pledge of Allegiance. Thank you. All right. Next up is the approval of our agenda. Got one little revision that we need to move our closed session up between public hearings and presentations and the action and discussion items. I'd like to move that to, I guess, item 8C or 9-B or.
Mr. Chairman, I move we approve the agenda as amended.
Second.
Have a motion from Mr. Johnson, second by Ms. Bansley. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. That brings us to our citizen comment time. I do not have anyone that signed up for the citizen comment time. We've got a couple of public hearings tonight, but if there's anybody that would like to speak on any item other than the public hearing items this evening, we would have 3 minutes. We have a handy dandy clock on the wall to help you keep time today. Anyone like to speak? Seeing no one, we'll close the citizen comment time and move on to the consent agenda. Mr. Hiss.
Mr. Chair, we have two items under the consent agenda this evening. Item A is a resolution authorizing an invitation for bids.
You're not coming through the speaker.
Yeah, I don't know what's
There you are.
Okay, good. All right. Item A is a resolution authorizing an invitation for bids for construction of the Forest Recreation Center's paved path between the center and the Forest Library. And then item B is a resolution authorizing the county administrator to execute amendments with the Virginia Department of Housing and Community Development for the Zytel and Chantel Vadi broadband projects.
Are there any questions regarding the consent agenda? Not entertain a motion.
So moved.
I have a motion from Mr. Scott. Is there a second?
Second.
Second from Mr. Davis. This is a roll call. Mr. Davis?
Yes.
Mr. Scott?
Yes.
Ms. Parker?
Yes.
Mr. Johnson?
Yes.
Ms. Bansley?
Yes.
Mr. Sharp?
Yes.
Chair votes yes, motion passes. That moves us on to the approval of the minutes from March 25th of 2024. Are there any additions, changes, or corrections?
Mr. Chair, I make a motion to approve the minutes for March 25th.
Okay, I have a motion from Mr. Scott. Is there a second?
Second.
Second from Ms. Parker. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. That moves us on to our first of two public hearings for this evening. First one is the consideration of an ordinance establishing the tax rates for tax year 2024, which is ordinance O-042-224-03. In the absence of Ms. Anderson, Mr. Hiss.
Yep. Thank you, Mr. Chair. Very quickly, before the public hearing opens, the fiscal year 25 proposed county budget is balanced without any proposed changes to the county's existing tax rates. So the tax rates would stay the same from tax year 2023 to the current year 2024. And just to review quickly, those rates are 41 cents per hundred for real estate, $0.41 per hundred for manufactured homes, $2.35 per hundred for your personal property, which is automobiles, trucks, motorcycles, and boats and other similar personal property items. $1.70 per $100 for heavy construction equipment, rental boats, computer hardware, and other peripherals. Zero taxes for vehicles for the transportation of the physically handicapped. Zero taxes for vehicles for the transportation of qualified disabled veterans. And the final rate for the hearing and adoption tonight is $1.20 per hundred for machinery and tools. So that's all I have, Mr. Chair.
Okay. Are there any questions for staff from the board? If not, I'll open up the public hearing portion of this. I do not have anyone signed up, but again, if you would like to speak for or against the proposed tax rates for this fiscal year, now would be your time. And seeing no one, I will close the public hearing or the citizen comment portion and bring it back to the board for discussion and possible action.
I have a comment on building permits. I was just looking at the, if I may at this time,
Okay.
I noticed the building office, their budget is higher than what they're taking in for permits. And I wonder if it would be fitting to raise permit prices to offset that deficit that they see there. I'm not criticizing or levying any criticism toward the building department or their, if anything, I know those guys over there work on a tight budget. But if tax dollars are having to go to offset a loss for those permits, I think we should consider perhaps raising fees for permits, or maybe looking at higher rates for penalties or fines.
I think we would certainly
I know it's not too long ago we did the
right,
fines.
discuss about that. Anything specific on the tax rates? If not, we'd entertain a motion one way or the other.
All right, Mr. Chair, I'll make a motion. Make a motion to approve ordinance 0042224-03, an ordinance establishing the tax rate for tax year 2024.
Okay, I have a motion from Ms. Parker. Is there a second?
Second.
Second from Mr. Davis. This is a roll call. Mr. Johnson.
Yes.
Ms. Bansley.
Yes.
Mr. Sharp.
Yes.
Mr. Davis.
Yes.
Mr. Scott.
Yes.
Ms. Parker.
Yes.
Chair votes yes, motion passes. That moves us on to our next public hearing, which is consideration of a resolution authorizing the issuance of not to exceed $28,687,000 in general obligation school bonds for Bedford County, Virginia, and providing for the form and details thereof. That's Resolution R042224-04. And Ms. Anderson is not.
Yeah, Mr. Chair, I'll start it, and I may ask Mr. Hagler from the CFO of the school system to help me out with this, since they've been intimately involved with this process. Just as introductory comments, on November 6th of 2023, the Board of Supervisors adopted a resolution to authorize the school board to submit 3 literary loan applications. Those applications were for canopy system and auditorium renovations at Liberty High School, canopy system auditorium renovations at Stanton River High School, and a addition of a gym at Bedford Primary School. So those loan applications were submitted, and then in February of 2024, the Department of Education notified the school system that all 3 applications were approved for the amounts requested. And each loan has a 3% interest rate and a 20-year repayment period. So the school board has to submit the project, final plan and specifications to the Virginia Department of Education before moving forward. To that effect, the school board has negotiated with Jamerson Lewis through a unsolicited PPEA, public-private partnership process, to work through these renovations that have been described. I do think it's worth noting that the current estimates for these projects exceed the literary loan fund application by $1,568,928. But we've had conversation with the school board and school board staff about working to reduce that number so it can fall within the amount of the loans that have been approved by the Department of Education. If it's not, if for whatever reason the final project costs exceed the loan amount for any of these projects, then the school board will use funds from its maintenance reserve fund to cover that overage. So the school board cannot finalize a contract with Jamerson Lewis until the county approves the resolution that's before us this evening, authorizing the issuance of debt not to exceed $28,687,000. Once this resolution is adopted, the school board can then finalize their vendor contract with Jamerson Lewis and begin working on the final plans. So at the end, of course, we don't if the $28,687,000 is approved for the loans, that doesn't mean you have to borrow that amount. I mean or you don't have to draw it down if the projects end up coming in less than 28 million or 27 million and something. Then that just means that we don't have to repay that amount, and everybody will end up saving money on the whole project. So that's about all I have, unless Mr. Hagler had something in addition that he wanted to add from a school staff perspective.
The only thing I'd add is that within the proposal from Jamerson Lewis. Thank you. In the proposal from Jamerson Lewis, we'll use direct purchasing opportunities where we can to save on sales tax, and so that will be savings right off the top. So that could amount to even $200,000 at least of just direct savings on sales tax with all the large purchases that we'll be making. So that was not factored into the contract, but that's the method that our board and our committee wants us to move forward with all these bigger projects.
Any questions or discussion from the board here of staff while we've got them up before the public hearing starts?
I was, Bridget, perhaps you could help me. I was trying to find the page that shows the breakdown of the costs in this email in my packet.
Page 107.
Yeah, I know on the PDF, it starts on page 107 and continues on 108, 109.
Thank you.
Breakdown. Okay, well, I will open up the public hearing portion of this. I've got 4 folks that are signed up, so I'm just going to call you in the order that they were given to me. And Jimmy Robertson, who has sat here for the 2.5 hours. You're up first.
Thank you.
Just your name and your address, and then clock starts then.
I'm James T. Robertson, Jr., and my address is 2052 Wheelers Ridge Road, Bedford, Virginia, 24523. Welcome, greetings to everyone. For those of you that do not know me, I'm the past president and owner of Robertson Construction out of Lynchburg. I have 47 years' experience in commercial industrial construction. And I'm going to speak about the canopies at Liberty High School. That's going to be the model that I'm going to go by. The two schools are very similar in that they have the canopies, but also Stanton River has electrical and conduits on the roof. So there's two design concepts out there. Do it all new or upgrade the existing ones. And I'm going to review this by giving you a quick scope of work. Engineering, inspections, master engineering, general conditions, abrasive blade, blasting. We're going to have a new roof drains, downspouts, 4-inch PVC pipe to the storm water, new DPO or EPDM roof coverage with flashing, replace 15% of the sidewalks. That's about 2,000 square feet. Pressure wash all of the sidewalks and seal them. Apply finishes to all the concrete, that's columns, beams, and ceilings. We have 5 light fixtures, caulk and seal the joints, seed and straw the disturbed areas. Liberty High School price, and I met qualified subs there and worked on this for about a week, but I've got $950,000 to do those canopies at Stanton River. At Liberty. Stanton River is $1,229,000, and that's because of the additional conduits and raceway that's on the roof. It's actually in the gutter of the canopy. So if you compare the new at $2,710,383, I'm at about 36% of that cost, and we're doing the canopies. I thought about this when I was doing it. I got a 2019 Ford truck, a F-250 Super Duty. And it's about 5 years old. That's about half the life of the truck. I was driving down the road and had a flat tire. I didn't go buy a brand new truck. I fixed a flat tire and I moved on. Hopefully that gives you some insight of what we probably should do with these schools. I want us to consider that the sidewalk has a cover over it, and that's the only purpose of that. It is not a teaching tool. They're not in the classroom. It's just a cover over the sidewalks. Although it's architecturally pleasing, but it really gives little value to the quality of education. This precast concrete has a 5,000 to 6,000 PSI in it, and it is about a 60-year life. As a taxpayer, I cannot really follow or agree with spending that $2.7110 million. And it's done under a contract that's not to exceed. And on borrowed money at 3%. So I suggest that we put the canopies out for bid separately and or an alternate price from Jameson Lewis, since they have worked on it. So the summary and total of this is a project set on the table right now at $5,643,987 versus my combined of $2,179,000, which is 38.6% less. That's a savings of $987 savings. So between the two concepts, I think the canopies do not fit into new construction. They are a renovation type project, and it can be done in a matter of saving money, and you're looking to come $1 million or so underneath it. This may be the answer to it. So I am not a general contractor licensed anymore, but this is what I would have done if I was operating in business.
Great. Thank you, Jimmy.
Thank you, Jim.
Thank you.
All right, next I have Sarah Mayhew.
Good evening.
Good evening, and if you end up needing an extra minute, go ahead.
Okay, thank you. My name is Sarah Mayhew, and I reside at 2101 Kelso Mill Road, Bedford, Virginia, District 7. I have 2 kids at Liberty High School and 1 at Liberty Middle. Exactly 1 year ago today, we listened to the majority of you all vote to approve the tax rate increase. I understand that in combination with inflation and the growing school needs, for these reasons, it was voted upon, and I agreed. It's been refreshing to hear of the forward-moving progress on this project for Liberty. This is a picture, and I emailed you guys this too. This is a picture of a section of one of the canopies located just outside of the auditorium. It pictures deterioration. There are several sections like this throughout the campus. If you visit our campus with rose-colored glasses, you'll most likely just see the roses. But I invite you to Stanton River or Liberty on a rainy winter day to walk to class with our students, perhaps next to a wheelchair-bound friend, to see through their lens just for a day. History has a way of repeating itself. I understand that membranes have been replaced before on the awnings years ago. You can see where that got us. I want to be sure we plan for the future and the growth of this side of the county and continue to support the replacement of the awnings. I'm very active in the Liberty community as a member of the PTA, boosters, as well on the board of the Minutemen Club. I talk to a lot of people, and some people are choosing to send their kids to Fountain Lake and LCA because if basic needs aren't being met, why would the greater ones be? In fact, someone we know who had just moved to the area from New Jersey drove around the campus of Liberty to get a feel for it and said it looked like the slums and didn't want their kids going there. The auditoriums at Liberty and Stanton River are in dire need of a redo and should at least be brought up to par with our neighboring school in Forest. In addition, it's our time Bedford Primary gets a gym. These kids deserve a wide open space where they can be active and unleash their energy. I implore you to continue to support what's right so that this project is done right with the best materials that make sense for both safety and longevity for both Liberty and Stanton River. We aren't asking for the world, but our world deserves more than this. It's time we invest in our future of this county. These students are our future board, our future doctors, nurses, teachers, bus drivers. By just continuing to put a Band-Aid on it won't fix it in the long run. And I'd like to add, as someone greater than I once said, be careful with rose-colored glasses because they make all the red flags blend in. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir. Next up, I have Emily Sitzar.
Good evening. My name is Emily Rose Sitzler. I am, with the exception of college and law school, I think I've spent my entire life pretty much in Bedford County, Virginia. I have been practicing law here for almost over 19 years, almost 20 years, wow. And I have a rising ninth grader at Liberty High School. Right now she's an 8th grader at Liberty Middle School, and she is very active in the Liberty High School Performing Arts. So I have sat in some really uncomfortable chairs for a really long time. And I'm here this evening because, first of all, I'd like to thank you folks for your time and your efforts. It's very instructive watching everybody this evening take this process so seriously. I can tell that you folks have to balance a lot of interests as well as balance budgets. And so thank you guys. Many of the issues, and it was really interesting to watch the work session because I kept thinking that many of the issues that were addressed in the work session tie into the need to invest in the education of our young people here in Bedford County. Growing social services needs, growing law enforcement needs, they are a part of growth, but they're also a part of poverty. And the town of Bedford, our poverty rate in the town is 20%. The poverty rate in the county is 8%. The Liberty School Zone needs to be attended to. And the issue is that if you have an economically depressed area, that increases the need for more law enforcement. If you have an economically depressed area, that increases the incidence of substance abuse and the need for social services to get involved in people's lives and in the lives of their children. It increases governmental costs in the long run. When we have schools, when we show people, similar to what Ms. Mayhew said, when we show that we invest in our children, then what that says to folks, what it says to businesses, what it says to economic development and to growth is that we are a community that is worthy of investing in. And in the long run, then that's going to lead to, hopefully, while we have growth, less need for social services, less need for law enforcement. And also, it's going to improve the quality of the lives, not only of the people who have children and who pay taxes for those children in Bedford County, but also for all taxpayers in Bedford County. Because the situation, ladies and gentlemen, is that the person who fixes your brakes is most likely going to be educated in public school. You want that person to be well educated and know what he's doing. The person who is a CNA and is doling out medications to people in assisted living facilities is likely to be educated in public school. Ladies and gentlemen, a rising tide raises all ships. Thank you again for your time, your consideration, and your hard work on behalf of the people of Bedford County. Thank you.
Thank you.
And next I have Marcus Hill.
Marcus Hill, 1158 Cedarberry Lane, Forest, Virginia. I'm also the chairman of Bedford County School Board, and I just wanted to come forward and say thank you for your consideration of the requested funds. And as we've heard tonight, these funds will take care of some much-needed work at both our Liberty High School campus, our Stanton River campus, and then also the gymnasium at our Bedford Primary School. Just as a reminder, we continue, as we mentioned, looking at ways to cut the funding or the cost of the projects. We've had some really good success recently with our facilities committee reviewing and then asking for additional bids. So we've been saving money as well as on 2 roofing projects I'll share. We saved almost a little under $1 million on our 2 board members being involved on that facilities committee. So we will watch this. Just as a reminder, this is a cap of what it would be at the majority, but our plan is to certainly cut cost anyway, make sure the projects are done correctly, but to cut cost at any point that we can. So, but again, thank you for your consideration.
Thank you, Marcus.
That was all that I had signed up. There is time if there's anyone else who would like to speak for or against the proposal this evening. Now would be your opportunity. I thought you might.
Kind of suspected that.
I don't know why you'd say that. I'm Christina Childress. I live at 1276 Marigold Drive, Goodview. I am a teacher in Bedford County. I've taught there 23 years. I'm a graduate of Bedford County, and my parents were teachers in Bedford County. And briefly, I will just say, please approve this funding. Nobody's putting in water slides. They're trying to do everything within a budget. And as far as the awnings not being instructional, tell that to kids who have to walk through it every day. Tell that to kids who have to maneuver sidewalks that are cracked in wheelchairs and walkers, and substitutes who have to maneuver them in wheelchairs and walkers. It may not be textbook, but everything we do is instructional. Valuing kids is instructional. So we'd really appreciate the funding. That's all.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right. Is there anyone else that would like to speak? Yes, sir. If you like. You are a resident.
Good evening. I'm Dr. Mark Bergen, Superintendent of Schools. I live at 1169 Mountain Creek Lane up in Big Island. And I want to echo the comments of our chair and the other speakers here tonight. I really value and appreciate the partnership between this body and the school board in serving our students and our parents and our staff and our citizens. On a personal note, in high school, what made me tick was being in musicals and in plays and in drama and singing on the stage. And that was as much a part of my high school experience as any of my academic coursework. I went on to perform in college and am still active in community theater and sing and perform every chance I get. We've talked a lot about the canopies, which I believe are needed. We've established and had a lot of conversation about that. I really appreciate that. The performing arts space for our students are going to be modernized for Liberty High School and for Stanton River High School to the same degree as our students at Jefferson Forest High School. So it's of extreme importance to those students and their families in our community that when they are taking their courses to learn about theater and production and music and dance, that they have a space that's comfortable and modern and well-lit and comfortable for people who are coming to see the performance. So thank you so much for your engaging conversation and for the collaboration you have between this board and our school board. And as an employee of the school division and as a citizen of Bedford County, I really do ask for your support of this project, and I thank you for your time tonight.
Thank you. Right. Anyone else? If not, I'm going to close the citizen comment time and move it to discussion from the board here. I'll just say, since I represent Stanton River and actually a little sliver that goes to Liberty, how important the auditorium projects are. I'm a graduate of Stanton River. I've sat through my own children there, and I want to see the maximum investment in the auditoriums from these funds. I am also one that believes that, at least at Stanton River, I'd rather see more money put to the auditoriums than I would to the canopies. So if we can make the canopies work there and make them better without exceeding budget there, I'd rather see those funds go into that auditorium and the additional space over there. I'm fully supportive of this and have been for many, many years. Another thing that I would like to see happen with this motion is, historically, we had a school construction committee from our board that worked in conjunction with the school board. And we started this process back last fall with some of our facilities committee, and I got to go with them. I believe it would be prudent, anytime that we're being asked to borrow money on behalf of any of the areas of the county, that we participate in that like we previously had. So I'd like to see our facilities committee meeting during the scope and work of these estimates and so forth with the builder. And actually, I would like to see that as part of our resolution going forward, that anytime we're borrowing significant funds, or any funds really, that we remain active in that. And it's not to micromanage, but it is to be part of that. I think it's been very constructive for the two boards to work in concert on these three projects.
Mr. Chair, I couldn't have said that any better, so I'm not going to say that, but I agree 100% with what you just said. Yeah, a couple and moving forward with this with a collaboration with both boards is essential. And we have, this board is the only board that actually can borrow money, and we currently have what we call it debt service. As I learned today in the work session, we actually don't have any county projects on our debt service that we're paying other than the school projects. And I know that the public, when we have our budget and the schools present the budget, what doesn't show up in the budget summary sheet from the school side is the debt service payment that the county does pay. So local dollars do fund operations, and that's in the budget. And now we have a capital maintenance line, and I think we're up to $4.4 million in that with this upcoming budget. But what doesn't show is the debt service. And if I get my, shoot, I had for this proposed budget, the debt service for the schools is $7,401,000, well, and change. So almost $7.5 million. And the public doesn't know that. And I really want to emphasize that tonight, that we're already carrying a debt service mortgage payment, so to speak, annually of $7.5 million. So, and now and I fully support it, so don't get me wrong on what I'm saying. I fully support these renovations for Liberty and Stanton River. They are long overdue. I want to see our auditorium looks just like Jefferson Forest Auditorium at the end of the day, if not better. But and the gym at Bedford Primary, I have been hearing about that gym, I know, for 10 years. And I also keep hearing for the third time now about the possible closure or relocating Bedford Primary. But by golly, if we get that gym there, then maybe they'll stop trying to close Bedford Primary School. So I fully support that. So just know that going forward, and don't misunderstand what I'm saying. But I do want the public to know that we do carry that debt service also. I don't think we get credit for that. So when the local dollars, because I hear people saying, just raise our taxes so we can do it. Well, give us some credit for the debt service payment too. Let's see. To piggyback off what Mr. Tuck was saying, we started the facilities type committee or school construction committee, and we've just kind of gotten away from it. But for an example, I do remember in the past when the borrow was for Jefferson Forest, and we had a construction, I guess, committee at the time, and they were able to get that borrow down. I think it was several $1 million. And it was just in the collaboration and looking through that, and it never hurts to have more, the more heads sitting at the table, the more ideas and the more collaboration. So fully support that. Just recently with the Stewartsville, talking about what it would cost to keep Stewartsville open, the improvements that would need to happen. Now, I know these weren't, in stone, but what was proposed for cost was way, way more than what people in the facilities committee and our board got together. And we really got some more realistic estimates. And I'm pretty confident that, although I don't know anything about construction, that we can move this forward with these projects too. I think you're going to be able to find savings and still get the project done. So, like I said, I'm going to fully support this project tonight. And if I think of anything else, I'll let somebody else talk. Well, I'll put my thinking cap on because I know I had something else to say.
Mr. Chair.
Yes.
I want it to be known and understood too that I fully support these renovations. There's a lot of reasons why these renovations make sense. One of them is as the forest schools get more overpopulated, it makes sense to redistrict and bring students to the Liberty Zone. And that being said, wouldn't students want to come back to the Liberty Zone from that forest area if we have a much more appealing facility there, including those important structures, the better auditorium and so forth? I'd also like to say this. Having listened to Mr. Robertson and talking about the numbers that he's put together here in the savings, just on the awnings, I don't want to focus particularly on the awnings, but the simple fact is if you can save almost 40% in one particular area on this proposal, let's just suppose you could save 30% on the entire $28 million. Be generous. That's a huge savings. And to allude back to Ms. Parker's point a moment ago, where we had board members sitting with the school board and talking about the construction and the savings that were enjoyed by that. And I don't think there's anybody in this room or in this county who wouldn't want to cheer on those kind of savings. And that's what I'm here for. That's why I'm on this board of supervisors. I choose to be on here because I do want to make Bedford County a better place. And as a taxpayer myself, I'm not only looking out for my own interests, but I take it as a responsibility to look out for the interests of others. And I think we really need to look hard at these numbers. But again, I do fully support this project. I just want to make sure that we get the most for our money.
Mr. Chair, I'd just like to say that this is not the first time that we've discussed this. We've discussed these needs before, and we've approved funding before, and these needs are still haven't been met. I'm going to support funding, but I'd like for this to be the last time that we're asked to fund something like this, and we approve the funding, and it doesn't happen. It's very frustrating, and I'm not sure the public understands that we are saddled with funding the school system, but we're not given any leverage at all on where the funds can be used. That we have to leave it up to the people doing the requesting. When they tell us what they need it for, we count on them to use it for what they told us they needed it for, and not to come back next year and say they need a gym at the primary school or need to fix the awnings at Liberty or Stanton River. But I am supporting this budget.
Okay.
I too support it. I think I like your idea, and I would like to change the resolution to include that we have what you're talking about, where we have that committee where some people from our board is a part of that. So we're not just giving a blank check. And so I think that's good accountability. So I support it with that caveat.
Anybody else? All right. No further discussion. We'd entertain a motion for or against.
Mr. Chair,
Yes.
I'll make a motion that we approve Resolution R 042224-04 with the requirement that there be, I believe, 2 members of the Board of Supervisors as part of the school construction committee meet with members of the school board just to work through things as we've done in the past for major projects like this.
Can we have a specific how many times they have to meet?
I just think that
At least monthly?
if you want to amend it, I just don't know how often they met during the project for Jefferson Forest. I suspect it's going to vary. I suspect it's more in the beginning on the front end, and it's less as it progresses.
I just don't think.
Randy, were you around during that time?
Afterwards, but I believe any time it might have been with Jefferson Forest, it might have been once or twice a month during the duration of the project. So from the kickoff until the end, as they design everything, there will be meetings constantly. So our facility committee with Jamerson, with other stakeholders, and even some people from the school, you know, the arts and stuff, where we want input and stuff, and depending on what we're working on, come in and kind of look at the costs and design this. I wasn't in on that, but I kind of heard about that after the fact. So whenever this committee, my facility committee meets with the PPA, it's a PPA committee, then whoever on the school board, and I think it's your facility committee, will be invited, and I'll make sure they're invited to every meeting and setting that up and the agenda and where those meetings are going to take place. I'll just put them in my contact list and keep them informed.
I have a motion out there.
We have a friendly amendment to your motion to add a citizen representative with, I don't know if Mr. Robinson would be willing, but someone like that who's been involved in this process up through now. It wouldn't be a bad idea to have a citizen with construction background like that. We don't.
You know, I just, you know, I don't want to make something unmanageable, but I'm fine with that if somebody's willing to serve.
Mm-hmm.
I wouldn't want to burden someone with it, but if someone
We have the ability to ask.
Yeah, and max it, you know, maybe allow 2 spots if it's available, if you have someone.
in the end, I think it's, you know, I don't know how much authority that committee has, but I know that there's a whole lot of input no authority committee has. No authority. It's not an authority.
All right, so we've got a motion on the floor with a friendly amendment that seems to be received. All right, so let's restate it to approve the resolution that's before us, adding cooperation from our facilities committee with the school board's facility committee, and the invitation to a citizen rep with construction background. Is that what I'm hearing?
Yes.
That's fine.
Okay, is there a second to that?
Second.
Second from Mr. Davis. Any further discussion on that? All right, this is a roll call. Mr. Johnson?
Yes.
Ms. Bansley? Yes. Mr. Sharp?
Yes.
Mr. Davis?
Yes.
Mr. Scott?
Yes.
Ms. Parker?
Yes.
Chair votes yes, motion passes. All right, that brings us up to our closed session time.
Yes, Mr. Chair, and I would call for a motion to go into closed session pursuant to Section 2.2-3711A3, discussion or consideration of disposition of real property regarding surplus school facilities.
Is there a motion?
So moved.
Ms. Bansley, is there a second?
Second.
Second from Ms. Parker. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? We're in closed session.
Yield at the stoplight there on 24.
One of them.
Travis Purdue.
All right.
We need a motion to come out of closed session.
So moved.
Have a motion from Ms. Bansley. Is there a second?
Second.
Second from Mr. Johnson. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? We are back in open session.
Whereas the Bedford County Board of Supervisors is convened a closed meeting pursuant to an affirmative recorded vote and in accordance with the provisions of the Virginia Freedom of Information Act, and whereas Section 2.2-3712 of the Code of Virginia requires a certification by the Bedford County Board of Supervisors that such closed meeting was conducted in conformity with Virginia law, now therefore it be resolved that the Bedford County Board of Supervisors does hereby certify that, to the best of each member's knowledge, only public business matters lawfully exempted from open meeting requirements by Virginia law were discussed in the closed meeting to which the certification resolution applies, and only such public business matters as were identified in the motion to convene a closed meeting was heard, discussed, or considered by the Bedford County Board of Supervisors. Mr. Davis?
Yes.
Mr. Scott?
Yes.
Ms. Parker?
Yes.
Mr. Johnson?
Aye.
Ms. Bansley?
Yes.
Mr. Sharp?
Yes.
And Mr. Chair?
Yes.
So certified.
All right. That gets us back on our agenda to action and discussion items. First one up is consideration of a resolution authorizing the county administrator to execute a contract with Brown Edwards for our annual audit services. That's Resolution R042224-05.
Yeah, I'll keep it short. Our county's contract with Brown Edwards expired with the completion of the 2023 audit. We issued a request for proposals for audit services on February 23rd. 2 proposals were received, and both offerers were interviewed on March 29th. Based on the proposals received, the interviews conducted, and the estimates provided, staff recommends continuing the county's relationship with Brown Edwards. The renewal contract has an initial term of 5 years to begin with a 2024 audit and the option for 2 one-year renewal terms. The total cost for the 2024 audit is $164,950, which has a 4% increase from the FY23 audit. So staff recommends the approval of the resolution to execute the contract with Brown Edwards.
Okay. Any questions for staff on that? Any discussion amongst the board on that? We'd look for a motion.
Mr. Chair, I'll make a motion to approve Resolution R042224-05.
Have a motion for Mr. Sharp. Is there a second?
Second.
Second from Mr. Davis. This is a roll call. Mr. Johnson?
Aye.
Ms. Bansley?
Yes.
Mr. Sharp?
Yes.
Mr. Davis?
Yes.
Mr. Scott?
Yes.
Ms. Parker?
Yes.
Chair votes yes, motion passes. That brings us to consideration of a resolution awarding the contract for the Moneta Park paving project. Resolution R042224-06. Mr. Higgins is going to present.
Good evening. So I will be presenting. I have the presentation that's in your packet, also up on the screen. This is for the paving project at Moneta Park. It was advertised on February 20th. It was due on March 19th at 3 p.m. The original budget that was approved in the capital improvement budget was $160,000. The basic scope of work of the project was paving all the existing roadways and parking lots in Moneta Park, which are currently a gravel surface. We also have included in the scope to repair a lot of drainage issues. There's a few collapsed pipes going where you enter the parking lots, and also some speed bump issues where speed bumps over time have degraded because they're actually poly speed bumps that are put into the gravel. So there's a lot of issues after years of use. The base bid that we went with was actually the main drive lanes to be fiscally responsible and to explore. And the first parking lot that you see on the right that services the soccer fields that are present. And to keep with the main theme and the initial intention of the capital improvement project that was approved, we did an alt bid of a small parking lot that is right next to the bathrooms on your left. The more recreational parking lot on the end on the left, and then the large parking lot that's one of the more highly used parking lots next to the ball fields on your right as you go in. The pros and cons of paving the whole park. Paving will increase safety. Stop times are significantly increased when cars are on asphalt compared to gravel. We will also be replacing the speed bumps that some are missing throughout the park. And kids, if I go back to this picture, if you see on the left, the smaller parking lot, that is where the main park bathroom is. Also past it to the lot on the end on the left, that's where the pavilion and playgrounds are. So as you can imagine, children are transversing back and forth, brothers playing baseball, little Sally's running across to the playgrounds or to use the restrooms, and we have cars that are regularly going through here. It's one of the most used sports parks in the county. So that's very important. The project will also solve multiple water drainage issues we have. Currently, staff is having to spend 4 to 5 times a year regrading. A lot of times it's existing gravel, but many times we also, as you see the next point, will save additional gravel that is being brought into the parking lot as we keep on having drainage issues throughout the parking lots and even on the main drive lane. And of course, your main con is going to be the initial costs that we're looking at right now to replace and go with paving, speed bumps, and new drainage pipes that will be installed in this overall project. So as I was talking about, we bid this project out. This is the results we received. It was a very competitive bid. We actually surprisingly got a significantly advantageous bid to the county that came up to $199,000, $140.34 as the lowest responsible bidder. That is for a local Adams Construction, or as many people will know it because they bought Patterson Brothers Paving. Additional funding. So as I originally told you, there was in FY23, you all approved $160,000 for this project. As everyone knows, through COVID, things fluctuated significantly, even as you can see in this bid. Asphalt paving, due to being a oil-based product, has fluctuated up and down. I'm actually very happy with the numbers that we received. We have identified the county contingency fund as a source to get the additional funding to complete the whole project at once. This has been gone over with county administration and also finance before making this recommendation. One of the big points to make about completing this project all at once is paving has significant deployment issues and economy of scale. If we did not complete this project all at once, we would actually be looking at a significant increase of the overall project phasing this project out. Because as you imagine, I'm sure everyone has seen the amount of equipment that's required for paving. Also, when you do smaller jobs, say we cut a parking lot out of it to get to the original budget, we would actually pay significantly more as less contractors will be interested. They will charge not only deployment, but higher unit costs, because it's just not as advantageous to do the smaller projects as the larger projects. So staff recommendations, which will be to provide authorization to transfer $39,140.34 from the county contingency fund to this capital improvement project, and also provide authorization to the county administrator to award and sign the contract with Adams Construction Company, DBA Patterson Brother Paving, as the lowest responsible bidder for both the base and alternate bids totaling $199,140.34. Thank you. Open to any questions.
Questions for Chris?
I have a question.
Yes, sir.
Do you have handy the square yards of area they're doing, Chris?
I apologize, I do not. As part of this bidding process, we provided the area and provided very specific specifications. If you take a look in the packet on the original IFB that we have in there to do the existing areas. The only caveat I gave them, which I'll go back to this map, which was an issue I found that wasn't originally specified. If you see right past the bathrooms, which is that smaller lot on the screen, we actually have an area that is thinner. That's created actually some issues, some mirror collisions in the past. Most of the area that you see here is 24 foot wide, especially near the entrance. Right in those bathrooms, it thins up, and also a thinner area right in between the major parking lots that we are asking them to make a minimum, I believe, is spec'd at 20 feet, which is actual drive lane to make safe passing for cars as they pass either direction, because this is a two-way. We left it on the contractors to measure and ensure that they are paving everything that's existing, along with specifications about 6 inches of gravel jacket around all paving.
The square footage and stuff is on page 181. It's 1,100 linear feet on the drive lanes, 25 foot wide. Small parking lot's 140 by 40. The other parking lot, 35 by 40, 65 by 190, 65 by 545.
I just calculated that in my head and came up with a number.
I knew you could.
I was just, like I said, I was just looking for a per square yard price if you determine that.
We did not. We didn't ask this.
Yeah.
We did a lump sum bid.
Yep.
Any other questions? I know this isn't part of this, but any thought to securing up the park after hours where we've had some issues running the lots and running in the fields with the cars?
Vandalism in the bathroom.
Will any of this paving curtail any of that by chance?
So we will be looking at, as you can see, the spur that comes off the very end. Eventually, we will be looking at other areas, because this area is actually a deficit for sports fields. A lot of that and any other improvements will be looked at as part of the facilities needs assessment that will be presented to you all in the next few months for approval and review.
All right, thank you, Chris. So any further discussion from board on this? I'm glad we're doing the whole thing.
Mr. Chair, just real quick, in terms of contingency fund, we've only tapped that for $5,000 this budget year, so we have a remainder of $651,652 in contingency.
Okay. Any other discussion?
Mr. Chairman, if there is no discussion, I move that we approve Resolution R 042224-06.
Have a motion for Mr. Johnson. Is there a second?
Second.
Second for Mr. Sharp. This is a roll call. Mr. Johnson?
Yes.
Ms. Bansley?
Yes.
Mr. Sharp?
Yes.
Mr. Davis?
Yes.
Mr. Scott? Ms. Parker?
Yes.
Chair votes yes, motion passes. That brings us to consideration of a resolution initiating zoning ordinance text amendments regarding outdoor gatherings and commercial kennel. Resolution R 042224-07. Mr. Mitchell.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and members of the board. Tonight for your review and possible initiation or amendments to the zoning ordinance, and I'll go through the resolution by parts and review those proposed amendments. Parts 1 and 2 are amendments to the outdoor gathering use. Part 1 is an amendment to the definition, which would amend the number of people gathered outdoors throughout the course of the event. The amendment is proposed to go from 500 people to 250 people. We're also proposing to amend the number of people at the event at one time from 250 to 100. Part 2 is an amendment to the general standards for outdoor gathering uses, placing a limitation on the number of temporary use permits for outdoor gatherings in a calendar year. That number would be 4. Currently, it is unlimited. Additionally, we are also proposing to add a new subsection to require approval from the Sheriff's Office, Fire and Rescue, and the Virginia Department of Transportation to ensure event safety and proper staffing before planning can issue an approval of a temporary use permit for an outdoor gathering. Parts 3 and 4 are proposed amendments to a commercial kennel use in our ordinance. Part 3 is amendment to the permitted use table to list commercial kennel as a special use permit with more stringent standards in the R1 and R2 zoning districts. Part 4 adds a new subsection with the requirements to be met when applying for a special use permit in the R1 and R2 districts. Those requirements include a minimum parcel acreage of 20 acres. All those facilities, indoor and outdoor, associated with the kennel be 200 feet from any property line, and that a type C buffer yard is required along any property line that joins a residential use. Part 5 will provide amendments to the construction standards for off-street parking for meeting hall uses to have parking areas that are gravel and remain grassy, and currently that would be consistent with similar types of uses such as a flea market and conference centers, which are currently exempt from that requirement. Additionally, we will also request that you amend the Director of Planning and replace that with Zoning Administrator, since the Director of Planning is an outdated position in the Division of Planning. Part 6 will provide an exemption for the Zoning Administrator for a development to not provide a dedicated loading space upon justification of such space not being needed. Just to kind of give you a recap on that, basically, not every use requires the general delivery and commercial delivery of goods to a particular property. Part 7 is to amend the permitted use table to add the general office use in the AP and AR zoning districts. This would bring that use into compliance with how we treat medical offices and clinics in those particular areas. And we also wanted to add a general standard through Part 8 to have the corridor overlay district be on that particular property that is subject to the special use permit in those particular zoning districts. So you would have to have the corridor overlay district on your property in order to be able to request a special use permit for a general office use. So just to recap that, medical office use is a special use permit in the AP and AR zoning district. A clinic is the same, and thus we're just simply bringing that use into the compliance with how we treat similar uses in that particular zoning district. If you have any questions, happy to answer those for you.
Mr. Chair?
Yes.
The outdoor gathering limitations, they're going to affect, say, the fair that we were talking about doing?
We are exempt from the requirement for the outdoor gathering
So
permit.
we're
Yes.
exempt?
Church
That's-
gatherings and county
Okay.
events.
Then my other question is, and I don't know, maybe the sheriff will know, I don't know if they still have them, but Benjamin's used to have outdoor events. Would a place like that be limited by this?
Yeah, he's putting one together for Valor Farms right now.
But are they gonna be they can't have more than 100 people attend?
No, you're just required to get the permit at that time. Keep in mind, we don't charge for this particular permit. It's just really to bring awareness to us to make sure we're prepared.
So if they're gonna
for it.
exceed it, they've gotta get a permit?
Yeah, if you're in that 100, if you're not gonna meet that requirement, then you don't have to get the permit. But this is just trying to lower the threshold to make sure that we're aware of these events in some of our rural areas of the county especially, where there's some concern about, having that large of a gathering of folks and making sure the volunteer fire departments and everything in the sheriff's office are prepared for those events.
I was gonna say, sometimes those are fundraisers for the volunteer fire department. Huh? What about where your wife works? Yeah, but those are, they've got an indoor facility.
But sometimes they use it for outdoor, like we took our. we
Weddings.
used it for yeah.
They have outdoor weddings, yeah, that's, but they have to go through.
No, so if you have another use that would allow you to have an outdoor type of event, you are excluded from this. So this would be simply,
But theirs isn't a temporary situation. Theirs is
Correct. That's more of a permanent situation where they're allowed to have more than the 4. Benjamin's is a good example of that. So they're not really approved to have an outdoor gathering type of event, whereas this permit would allow them a venue to be able to have that event illegally and to also make sure we're
But
prepared.
Benjamin's can only have 100 people there.
No. The permit is required when you reach that threshold. When you have 100 at one time, or you have over 250 over the course of the event, that's when your permit. So you could have either or scenario playing out there. So they just have to get the permit. We don't charge anything for the permit. It's really just
mainly just to make sure the sheriff's department's aware.
Yeah.
It's in that new winery that just is opening up near it's not gonna really affect them, except they have to get a permit.
That's agritourism, so that's covered under another category.
I got a question. If this thing here says, I can find where I underlined it. It says it has to be approved
Yes.
by the sheriff's office, fire department, and all that. So if somebody alerts them to this, they still have to prove it, or they just have to alert them to it? Like it's highway department down here, that might take a year to get their approval.
I wouldn't, I understand where you're going with that, but I think the idea here is currently the way we handle these permits is we actually approve of the permit first, just based on some very generic information. So our staff is making a call as to whether or not this event is properly staffed and safe. And then after we issue the permit, we are notifying the sheriff's office and fire and rescue and these folks to tell them, hey, you need to work with them to get these things done. And, the sheriff sometimes will send back an email, hey, you guys need to, hire someone to make sure that's done. What we're saying is we want that person to be hired and then to say it's hired, and then we feel good about being able to make sure the event's safe. I mean, that's the key to the event for us, is making sure it's properly staffed by the sheriff's office, making sure people are ingressing and egressing the property safely, parking correctly and not causing traffic issues. I can think of the event that we had out there, I think it was at Benjamin's, I believe, where they had folks parking across the street and the property owner got really upset about that. So this is trying to make sure we're preparing for all those things and making sure there's preparations. And if they're expecting 500 people and we know the property can't handle 500 people, well, where are they parking those folks at? Do they have approvals with those folks to be able to park them there? That's what we're looking for.
But
What
if they
about-
only expect 100 people and then 500 people show up, is that what you're?
What about the highway department? Have you has an event like this been done before where the highway department was asked about it?
No, but we do notify them when we have the event now, kind of the same way that we're
But it
notifying
doesn't
the
say
sheriff.
that, it says it has to be approved by the highway.
Yeah, and I think what we're trying to get away with there is how am I and my planning staff going to determine that an event is traffic-wise safe? The road they're proposing on is appropriate. I think we're making that call in planning, and that really shouldn't be the case. We're not experts in that particular field.
You're not answering my question. If somebody like Benjamin wants to do this.
Right.
And they have to get approval from the highway department. And the highway department sits on it like they do everything else for months and months and months.
What I would tell you is that at that point in time, and I'm not aware that the highway department has ever required anything for that. I think this is one of those situations where you have someone that's planning to have 500 people on a dirt road in Bedford County, where we have a real issue with of the road just being completely unsafe to have that type of event. And that's what we would be looking for then. Usually the sheriff's office the highway department typically is okay if the sheriff's okay, because he is going to provide the ingress, egress of the property, proper traffic control. The highway department simply would only be in play there.
The sheriff doesn't have to get the highway department's approval.
Correct. We would ask for them that, and they could say that we're good with the event. Like I said, we send the current approvals out to all the agencies. Typically, I get the responses from the sheriff's office, and I'd get responses from, fire and rescue, particularly for the events, making sure they're properly staffed, especially in the summertime, because you'd have heat exhaustion being an issue with it.
I just have a problem with the way it's worded with the highway department involved in it, because I know on all the stuff we've had to do with the highway department.
Do you work for Todd?
They might have to send it to Richmond and get it approved, and send it up to Washington to get it approved. and all
Well,
that.
you could just simply change the ordinance if you feel like you don't want to include them in the approval process. I feel good about it if the sheriff's office feels good about it. That's the way I feel about it. Yeah, we can just simply keep them in the notification process.
That's what I was gonna suggest, is
That's what I
we
would-
change the word approval to consent or
Notify.
notification.
Notify,
Yeah.
I like that.
That's fine. We can handle that. I feel good about it as long as our staff and the people that we're counting on to be at those events to serve the people if there's a problem. I feel good about it.
I'm wondering what problem this solves. I mean, why are we doing this? Is there a certain specific problem that this is solving?
Well, I just mentioned a scenario a few minutes ago that played out in Forest, where we ended up having someone parking in an area that ruined
Benjamin,
the,
so
yeah.
Is that what's really causing this new regulation?
I wouldn't say that that's the one cause. I just think that from my standpoint, when we approve of these permits, I don't feel real good about approving those permits unless I feel like I'm getting some feedback from them saying that we need this in order to be able to approve the permit. I'm approving the permit beforehand, and I'm just notifying them that I've done that. So I just want to bring them into the approval process for us. We get it 3 weeks ahead of time, too. I want to make that very clear. We require it 3 weeks ahead. That's plenty of time for folks to have a back and forth with us. Matter of fact, I think the last one we sent out to the sheriff's office, he responded the same day and said you need to, hire a deputy to be able to make sure you staff it correctly.
What happens is they are expecting 100 people and 500 people show up and they haven't got their approval. What happens to the event?
We would just tell them next time, we'd be on the safe side, get a permit for the event.
You're not gonna go in there and close them down?
No.
They haven't got it.
We move and make sure it's not a pattern,
Yeah.
because we've had that before, where they'll underestimate so they don't have to give this.
Correct.
And then we see this humongous party that we have to go in and break up because of it. And so we put them on notice immediately that,
So you're supportive of all this?
yes, ma'am, 100%.
Yeah, 250 is a large number. I think if you bring that number down to 100, it really makes people think like, well, I really need to get this permit. 250 is kind of a area. Okay.
I would be okay with the notification instead of approval.
For, you're talking, well, we're currently notifying them now. I think what you want to have is approval from the sheriff's office and fire and rescue and notification to VDOT.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. Yeah, we can amend that. That's not a problem.
Any other questions?
I think it's a great idea.
Better jump right now then.
I do have one question. On the commercial,
Kennel?
dental, what about that about?
We currently are reviewing a special use permit in a district, and the planning commission felt that the property was adequate in order to be able to have that particular use, so they wanted to be able to offer an avenue for someone to do that. It is a use that would service the community at whole. Go on vacation, you want to house your dog, you don't have to drive to, the town center or something like that to be able to board your dog. So the idea here is that it would actually only be eligible for very few properties in those particular zoning districts. And that's what they wanted to provide, an avenue to be able to approve a special use permit instead of having to force somebody to go through a rezoning request.
We're gonna have, going forward, if somebody wants to have a commercial kennel, they're gonna have to have 20 acres.
Yes. Yes.
R1, R2.
Only in,
How many lots are there in R1 and R2 that are 20 acres?
One in District
Okay. Because, I can't think of any in Forest, but,
I've got a place to put your dogs.
well, no, I'm just, because I'm thinking that like the veterinarian on 11, I think he boards some overnight. Certainly not 20 acres. There's that place over on Graves Mill, it's like a boarding place that's like on the backside of Graves Mill Center, and that's like in a
Also,
shopping center.
There's also one down there on Lakeside Drive next to the Nissan, has the boarding in the back.
yeah, there's one on 221, I think, around Castle Loma
Yeah,
as well.
they don't have a
Barking
problem
Bowman.
about 3 or 4 acres.
Yeah, so I'm just thinking like,
But that's probably zone commercial though, right?
Yeah, I mean, we're talking about commercially zoned properties. We already actually allow them by right in the ag district. So this is just opening up an opportunity for those odd situations where you all get a chance to say yes or no to those particular uses based on the citizen comments.
okay.
Anything else? All right, thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Open it up for any discussion, and this is just to initiate the text amendments. They'll be back before us, assuming they come out of planning commission.
I mean, it sounds like you need to make the motion with your amendment over there.
Okay, I gotta get my glasses on to make the motion.
Barry Mason's getting ready to start.
I make a motion that we initiate the zoning text amendment with one amendment changing the word from, approval to notification. And
Specifically related to the Virginia Department of Transportation.
VDOT, excuse me. And that's R 42224-07.
Okay, we have a motion from Mr. Scott. Is there a second?
Second.
Second from Ms. Parker. This is a roll call. Mr. Davis?
Yes.
Mr. Scott?
Yes.
Ms. Parker?
Yes.
Mr. Johnson?
Yes.
Ms. Bansley?
Yes.
Mr. Sharp?
Yes.
Chair votes yes, motion passes. That moves us on to board committee reports. There is a personnel committee report from March 12th in your packet. Board comments, anything that anybody needs to share this evening?
I was very sad to hear about John Barnhart's situation. He has covered the board for, well, since before I was on the board.
12 years
I
ago.
mean, I think he's a Bedford County fixture. I'd like to see, you know, I'd like to see if there's anything we can do to help him. I don't know what we can and can't do, but I don't know. He's a Bedford County fixture, and you know, we tend to take these things for granted until something like this happens. So anyway, if there's anything we can do for him, you know, I want to bring it to the public's attention as well. If somebody wants to help him out.
Anything from anyone else? Right, Mr. Hiss, anything for county administrator?
No, I feel like I probably should. I would just say that I'm not prepared to speak on the details, but if Ms. Anderson, our finance director, had provided the quarterly financial report for the third quarter ending at the end of March. So if there's any questions or concerns, please feel free to reach out to myself or Ms. Anderson, and we'll do our best to answer those questions. But everything seems to be trending in the right direction. But that's all I have.
Thank you. Mr. Skelly? anything?
Just briefly, Mr. Chair, I mentioned this at an earlier meeting, but if you were looking for the most updated version of Bedford County Code, that is now on our Bedford County website. We are no longer using Unicode as a host. That's going to save us a lot of money. Unicode is about $1,000 a year just to have it, and every time you made a change to the code, they would charge upwards of $4,000 to $5,000. So, yeah. Which is why we were putting them in batches to save money, but when we started finding out that it was not actually getting updated concurrently with when you all are acting, we figured that that's the end. So Nicole from my office worked very hard to format that, put it together, and get it on the website for you and our citizens. So.
All right, thank you. Upcoming reminders, our next work session is May 13th at 5. Any other calendar reminders?
No, I don't think so, but like I mentioned during the work session, finance committee members will probably reach out to you in the near future about scheduling a meeting. And also, as we're a personnel committee, as we're working through this UKG implementation, there's going to be some personnel policy changes we'll want to review with you. So might be a personnel committee meeting in the second half of May that we'll be looking at, maybe.
Okay, I have a motion from Mr. Scott for adjourn. Is there a second?
Second.
Second from Mr. Davis. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? We stand adjourned.